So what was the question again? Oh, why is it called the traffic jam? Well, you know, the reason is, it's because I have two really cool cars. Seriously cool cars. And I love drifting, racing, because I am fast and slick. And plus, I like to create a bit of traffic jam myself with a whole lot of great music. Burunaka, my name is Real, your host and DJ, right here on the Today FM Traffic Jam every weekday from 3 p.m. to 7. Right here on Today FM, today's hit music.
In this bulletin, Finance Minister Ayaz Sayed Qayyum presents his first national budget in Parliament. Economic growth projections look positive for 2015. And there are wins all around for government departments and ministries next year. Good evening, Fiji. I'm Edwin Nand. Finance Minister Ayaz Sayed Qayyum has tabled his first national budget in Parliament. In a 2-hour address, he laid the plans for the government for the next 12 months, saying they're delivering on the promises made before the elections. Ritika Pratap gives us an overview of the budget.
Economic growth for 2014 is likely to be 4.2% against a forecast of 3%. Finance Minister Ayaz Sayed Qayyum says Fiji has rarely enjoyed such a buoyant economic outlook.
This unprecedented growth trend, and particularly the strength of this growth, are clear evidence that our economic policies and the investments government is undertaking are doing what we intended them to do, and that is, it's the right economic course for Fiji.
Total revenue is projected at $3.1 billion in 2015, with total expenditure at $3.3 billion. This brings our deficit to $213.9 million, or about 2.5% of GDP.
We would prefer no deficit, of course, but this is a healthy and sustainable level. Government debt currently stands at $4 billion, equivalent to 49.8% of GDP. With the 2015 budgeted fiscal deficit and growth outlook, we expect to reduce total debt to 48.7% of GDP next year. Government's operating expenditure stands at $1.9 billion, while a sum of $1.3 billion is appropriated for capital expenditures in 2015. The 30% increase in capital expenditure now brings government's capital investment to 41% of total expenditure.
Fiji's offshore sinking fund now has $117 million saved up, ready to be used when time comes to pay foreign loans. Our foreign reserves stand at $1.8 billion, enough to cover 4.6 months of imports. Ayaz Sayed Qayyum says Fiji has never maintained such a strong foreign reserve position for 5 straight years. A lot of his address focused on reforms, restructures, and improvement of services, beginning with a major overhaul of the public service to make it more efficient and responsive.
No government can put its ideas into action without an able and professional community of public servants who have the education, skills and experience to deliver on our ambitious development agenda. Fiji is dispersed across so many islands, and our public servants have to be especially innovative, responsive and dedicated.
$4.4 million goes to the Legal Aid Commission to assist people who can't afford lawyers, and there will be improvements to court facilities.
Government is providing an increased allocation of $7 million for the extension of Lautoka High Court complex in a general effort to improve court facilities in the Western Division. $1 million is given for the relocation of the Bar Magistrates Court, and another $500,000 is budgeted for the new Nasinu Court. Apart from this, $2.5 million is allocated for the upgrade of the existing court complexes, together with $500,000 for the upgrade of courthouses in rural areas and small towns. The island court sittings will continue with a budget provision of $400,000 next year. This will help bring justice to remote areas. Government is also providing $450,000 for undertaking revision of laws with a further $300,000 grant to the Fiji Law Reform Commission.
FICIC receives $8.96 million in next year's budget, while $550,000 is given to Human Rights Accountability and Transparency Commission.
A further $100,000 towards the Freedom of Information Act, which will be implemented next year. The Consumer Compensation Tribunal established this year is provided with a budget of $300,000. The Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions will be given $5.7 million.
The theme for this year's budget is turning promises into deeds. Kritika Pratap, FBC News.
Infrastructure and development has received the largest piece of the pie. The Fiji Roads Authority alone has been allocated $653 million, an increase of $179 million from last year. Maggie Boyle with the details.
Good infrastructure is the key to economic development.
The catchword for us is continuity. We have, in the last 3 years, FRA has come a long way. We have built a platform and identified those places within our network where that money needs to go. I must emphasize, though, that there is, as the Minister had said, there is a big series of backlogs, particularly in the areas of bridges and jetties. Bulk of that money is going there.
The Minister keen to emphasize the allocation for water infrastructure, $176 million.
Water is a poor cousin to roads in the utility area. The first time ever now government is really putting some effort into water. Water is a basic right. It's a commitment that we have made. There's a series of capital works that now needs to go into building capacity. It's been totally neglected over a long, long time. Wastewater management is a big one. And so the bulk of that money is going into some of those main areas and also going into the reform of the Fiji Water Authority.
Families which earn less than $30,000 won't be billed for water consumption.
We're looking at a time schedule within the first quarter of 2015. But it is very important to do it right, and make sure no one gets left out, so only those that qualify get to qualify.
For the Stinson Parade and other rundown bridges around Fiji, $15 million has been provided for by the Chinese government. There's also an allocation of $24 million for the shipping franchise scheme and $19.5 million for the rural electrification project. Maggie Boyle, FBC News.
Fiji's economy has been growing steadily and is well positioned for the boom in growth and progress as it's at the center of the Asian century. This according to ANZ Chief Executive Vishnu Mohan, who says he is optimistic about what it means for Fiji. Ellen Stolz reports.
In the budget announcement today, the government says it is playing its role in taking the country forward.
The current economic expansion is driven by both public and private sector activities. The government is doing what it should do. It is creating an environment that allows the private sector to succeed.
Vishnu Mohan says the country is on good footing economically.
We are now living in the Asian century. The trade corridors, the investment corridor, the people corridors are all in Asia. That's the reason why the Indian PM is coming. That's the reason why the Chinese president is coming. And we firmly believe that we are positioned to help that process, to facilitate that process, and that's what we will continue to do.
The government, in his opinion, needs to continue on this path.
And the country's growth has been fantastic. If you look at the growth in the last 2 or 3 years, country, in my opinion, has been positioning well for this uptake, which we are all anticipating, which I believe will happen, and we ourselves has been a part of it too.
The ANZ CEO has high hopes for the future of the nation. We can only hope that these predictions are correct. Ellen Stolz, FBC News.
The Health Ministry will spend a lot to recruit and retain staff next year, with a budgetary increase of $47.3 million over last year. Akosita Tale has more.
Out of $269.7 million for 2015, $8.1 million will be used to hire 200 nurses and 150 doctors. Another $2.7 million will be spent on 91 new healthcare workers, such as pharmacists and lab technicians, and $1 million for training.
When you have more staff, you can meet with more patients, you can deal with them, you can make sure that the medicines come because you have more pharmacists, physiotherapy work, does well, all of this. So when you have more staff, it allows us to serve people better. That's something that we're very, very grateful for.
Delivering on an election promise, the government will provide free prescription medicine to Fijians earning less than $20,000. An additional $8 million will include medicines for non-communicable diseases.
Today's budget, they talked about a 5 cents per liter excise duty or tax on sugary drinks. That will help us to promote the message of dealing with non-communicable diseases. So this is the greatest problem in Fiji. Greatest problem in Fiji now is non-communicable disease. So this is a step in the right direction in our fight against NCDs.
Capital projects will also be bolstered. $17.5 million for a new 55-bed bar hospital, $4 million for a new Nosori hospital, $5.5 million for the 10-bed maternity unit in Makoi, $6.5 million to renovate Lautoka's accident and emergency department, $2.2 million for Keyasi Health Center, $2.4 million to upgrade and extend Rotuma Hospital, and $3 million for a 224-bed maternity unit at the CWM Hospital in Suva.
So all that money will help us to have better facilities so we can deal with patients better. And we've noticed also there's more money from the pharmacy side. The amount of money is increased. So we'll be able to provide more vaccines, drugs, and the consumables and the biomedical equipment to be able to assist people.
$41 million will be spent on drugs, vaccines, consumables, laboratories, oxygen supply, and medical equipments. Akusita Talei, FBC News.
A series of changes have been announced in customs tariffs, which come into effect next year. Watisoni Rekondroka has more.
Fiji Islands Revenue Customs Authority has to collect $2.3 billion in revenue next year.
We are looking forward to that, to the challenge, but we see coming next year, given a lot of optimism from the private sector, we are very hopeful of collecting that $2.3 billion next year.
The import and excise duty on all imported alcohol, tobacco and cigarettes increases by 10% from tonight. Import duty on luxury items has increased from 0% to 32%. To support the local industry, there is a 32% import duty will apply on printing and photocopying paper, and a special rate of $1 or 32%, whichever is greater, will be applied on exercise books. Fiscal duty on imported unrecorded blank optical CD will increase from $2 to $5. Fiji Revenue and Customs Authority CEO Chitoko Tigulewu says there's a lot of hard work lying ahead.
The reforms that we're doing, our business processes, the structure, the people that need to come on board, the publicity, the laws that needs to be administered properly.
Fiji residents returning home will not be allowed to bring only one vehicle per family. Normal duty will be imposed on importation of additional vehicles. There is no import duty on LED lights to reduce energy consumption. A new duty concession will now apply to companies or entities involved in the importation of semi-finished products. These are products imported in bulk for packaging and other goods for assembly and packaging materials on the condition that is for bond and 100% exported. There is an excise duty on sweetened drinks at a rate of 5 cents per liter. Watisoni Rekondroka, FBC News.
After the break, more reactions to the national budget announcement.
Isang bulan na naborong cuma na matang ni Kwan ni Rawon ni Bibang na matang ni Misa Rapo. Niya na isang bulan na sero ko ni sana. Cuma kira na naborong cuma. Tu na sile. Isang bulan, oyo Mr. Ben.
Kela po?
Na magkikira na Bibang mataka mo ni cikira borong bukan main ono. Kena diwa,
Nabura FM. Ang betul sile.
Welcome back. The government has provided $120 million for the Fiji police force in its 2015 budget. It's an increase of $8 million. Savaira Tabua has more.
$2.4 million has been allocated for Valelevu Police Station and $1 million set aside for the renovation, extension and upgrading of police posts, stations and quarters. Assistant Police Commissioner Sikeli Vuniwanga says the new budget will boost services provided for members of the public.
To the improvement of our service delivery, add to the morale of the people down the ground. And I think it also gives us a challenge on how to perform.
Looking at the military, Minister for Defence Colonel Timothy Natuva says amount allocated for the discipline forces will encourage officers to provide better service.
We have to improve the infrastructure. Some of the infrastructure in the last 7 years was never repaired, and we are working on that in order to get the infrastructure right and the training capacity building for both the military and the police to increase efficiency.
The Fiji military forces had received $103.3 million in its budget. This includes $7.5 million allocated to build a training center for the BlackRock Integrated Peacekeeping Project in Nandi. BlackRock Mess Hall received $1.7 million. $2 million is set aside for the upgrading of Kiro Petrol boat. Meanwhile, the Fiji Corrections Service has been allocated $38 million for next year. Also included is the construction of the new women's correction facility in Lotoka and $200,000 for the Yellow Ribbon Project to assist released prisoners. And $200,000 is set aside for the hosting of the Regional Pacific Commissioners Conference next year. Savaira Tabua, FBC News.
Finance Minister Asa Kayum has announced the government is allocating funds for new land and new homes, while at the same time placing control on the sale of land to non-Fijians.
Government is increasing the stamp duty to 10% on transfer of non-resident strata tile property buyers and 5% on non-resident strata mortgages. This should curb the foreign demand to own residential properties and make it more affordable for Fijians. These measures will be complemented by amendments to the Land Sales Act that will restrict non-residents from buying freehold land or leasing state land for residential purposes.
The effect of this would create demand from foreigners to lease Itoke land rather than purchasing freehold or state land. The Minister for Women, Poverty Alleviation and Children, Rosy Akbar, has welcomed an increase in the ministry's budget for 2015. They were allocated $44.8 million, an increase of $4.4 million. The government also allocated $500,000 for child protection, and another $500,000 has been put aside for the 2015 Women's Expo.
Given the new portfolio for children in the ministry, certainly the increase given to us is going to assist us to carry out our works and take the ministry forward.
Akbar says she understands there will be further consultations. She was pleased with the budget allocation announced today. There's also been an allocation of an operating grant of $14.9 million to the Land Transport Authority for next year. The government has also allocated a capital grant of $3.4 million for the purchase of vehicle inspection equipment, repair and upgrading of weighbridges and the construction of a new office for the LTA in Lambasa.
Government will also undertake a nationwide survey and consultation process to get further information on the travel behavior, mode of transport around the country, types of vehicles and other pertinent data to assist with future planning of developments in the transport sector. $750,000 is allocated towards this under the National Transport Database and Transport Planning Software allocation.
Industry and Trade Minister Fayaz Koya says his ministry will focus on small micro enterprises in 2015.
Minister of Finance has mentioned regarding the SMEs. We're really quite happy with this part of our Fiji First manifesto. That's going to be administered through the FDB. Program should be up and running shortly, and we're quite happy with that.
The government has announced the scope of SME income tax incentives will be extended to cover the entire agriculture sector. $23.6 million has been allocated to undertake the modernization of the government information, technology and communication services. $1 million is allocated to digitize the records at the Registry of the Titles and Companies Office.
$200,000 is provided for the computerization of the VKB records with the Ministry of Itauke Affairs. Government is also providing $1 million for the implementation of the national switch and the Fiji Pay system. $4.6 million is allocated for the renewal of software licenses. Madam Speaker, Government will fully implement digital television by the end of next year. This is a very exciting project for Fiji.
The government has increased the budgetary allocations for the education sector, health and the police department. Therefore, FBC News took to the streets to find out what people had to say about the announcement this morning.
To be frank, we the people of Fiji, the ones who are working right now, we're living below poverty line. With a new budget, it's going to help in putting food on the table, sending children to school, and also making us more happy than the life that we used to live before.
The health sector, there will be more health facilities, which will benefit all these people here who need help. Since there are shortage of facilities in the hospital nowadays, I think it's very good. There will be less chances of people facing difficulties in looking for help while they go into the emergency rooms. I think it's good.
I believe that increasing the police force budget will definitely benefit both the police and us citizens, as it will increase more employment. It will also decrease crimes committed, as there will be more resources available, and overall it will contribute to the economic development in Fiji.
I think that this helps eradicate poverty, as some students who are unfortunate, they get free education. This enhances students' learning, especially for kindergarten students. Not all students were able to go through kindergarten. This way it makes it possible for them to get a place in class 1. So I think as students we will benefit from this, and I thank the government for their decision.
I believe that if they increase the budget for the police force, it will increase the number of people that are unemployed for them to recruit, and they can improve their the facilities, vehicles, mostly stations in rural areas. They don't have any access to transport. I think, and I believe that it will benefit from increasing from that budget. Thank you.
On to other news. The President of China, Xi Jinping, arrives in Nandi this hour, becoming the first Chinese head of state to visit Fiji and the South Pacific. The historic visit for 2 days after India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi graced our shores is indicative of Fiji's foreign relations with some of the most powerful countries in the world.
President Xi will arrive this evening after a 2-day visit to New Zealand and the G20 summit in Australia last week. Fiji is rolling out the red carpet to welcome the Chinese president. Prime Minister Voreqe Bainimarama and his cabinet ministers will welcome Xi at the Nandi airport, where he will inspect a 100-man guard of honor. He will be given a traditional welcome tonight at the Sheraton Fiji Resort before heading to a state dinner. The official part of his visit begins tomorrow, where he is expected to sign 5 MOUs with Fiji. Xi is also scheduled to meet Pacific leaders who are here to attend the bilateral talks. Papua New Guinea Prime Minister Peter O'Neill is expected to fly in also to meet with the Chinese president. Nandi is ready to welcome and host the Chinese leader. The public is being advised of traffic being closed from Nandi Airport to Denarau for an hour this evening and on Sunday morning.
This is only one of event, and it's a state visit. People have to expect this. We have heard people commenting, but I'm just urging us just to be aware of the overall government trying to get prominent leaders to visit our country. This is one of its kind, and we as government departments are there to play our role.
The Fiji police force will maintain tight security during Xi's 3-day visit centered around Denarau. Xi visited Fiji in February 2009. This is his second trip to Fiji, reinforcing the strong diplomatic relations between Fiji and China. Christopher Chand, FBC News.
And Jamie joins you now with Friday Night Sports.
Edwin, coming up, government focuses on development in 2015 budget allocation for sports. And Suva won lead on day one of Central Tower Games. Details after the break.
छू 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 हे हे नमस्ते फीजी, आपके हर एक प्रॉब्लम की दवा लेकर मैं आ गई हूँ 9 से 12 बजे तक आपकी सहेली रेनू। छू 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 40 में 20 का दिखना है। मैं हूँ ना आपके साथ में मिर्ची एफएम पर 9 से 12 बजे तक मंडे टू फ्राइडे। मिर्ची इट्स हॉट।
Welcome back. First up tonight, development is the key focus of the sports budget for 2015. There's a fair sum allocated for the construction and upgrade of sports facilities around the country, as well as money for national teams which have a busy calendar next year. Tsale Ndadakadaka has more.
The government has given its backing to teams on overseas tours next year, with $2 million to compete in major tournaments.
This includes the Fiji Under-17 men's football team, Pacific Rugby Cup, Junior Rugby World Cup, Under-20 Soccer World Cup, Pacific Games, World Netball Competition, Pacific Nations Cup, Commonwealth Youth Games, Rugby World Cup, and Under-17 women's football.
The Fiji Sports Commission has $800,000, which Chairman Peter Mazey says will be channeled to sporting facilities in remote areas.
That means that we can do more work with our outreach programs, which are particularly targeted to the rural areas, and we'll be spending time in the maritime areas as well this year. The only islands we went to last year was Tabua and Tabua.
The government has allocated $400,000 to host international tournaments and teams, including the Silver Ferns and national rugby teams from Argentina and Japan, to visit our shores. The Fiji International Golf Tournament has also been allocated $2 million. Zalendo Kavak, FBC Sports.
Suva 1 is currently leading the Central Eastern Tower Games at the end of the first day of competition at NZ Stadium. The team managed to scoop 11 gold, 10 silver and 10 bronze medals. Suva 2 is in second place with 9 gold, 7 silver and 6 bronze. Northland is currently in third place with 5 gold, 5 silver and 8 bronze medals. The tournament will end tomorrow. That is yours for tonight. It's back to Ed for business.
Fairly short sports segment tonight. 50 women civil servants who lost all their retirement benefits accumulated during the years they were unmarried have been compensated. While giving their checks, Prime Minister Voreqe Bainimarama said the discrimination had not been corrected since the colonial era, and today is the beginning of change from old norms. Bainimarama has urged the women to invest their money wisely and adds the government is determined to look after retirees and pensioners as these individuals helped shape the country.
This is my government's way to right an injustice that was never dealt with, not even by past governments, despite the repeated requests by this group of women. And for that we are committed to, amongst other things, the removal of archaic laws, rules and barriers that breeds injustice, inequality, and hinders our progress as a nation.
More checks are expected to be handed out in the coming months. The Pension Office is vetting about 600 applications. Some showers were experienced over the Lau Group, the eastern and interior parts of the larger islands today. Elsewhere, fine weather apart from isolated afternoon or evening showers prevailed. Nandi peaked at 35 degrees today in the temperature charts. and a bit of a mixed bag will be seen tomorrow, with a bit of sunshine, intermittent showers and cloudy conditions in various parts of the Fiji group. And the outlook for Sunday: some showers over the interior and eastern parts of the larger islands, possible afternoon or evening showers elsewhere. And the main points once again: the government lives up to its election promises in its first national budget. Economic growth for 2014 is likely to be at 4.2%, and the President of China, Xi Jinping, has arrived in the country for a state visit. Our poll question this week: is Fiji's recognition in the international fora improving? Visit our FBC website to take part. Remember, you can send us newsworthy pictures and videos on email, citizenseyes@fbc.com.fj, or share it with us via our Facebook page, FBC News, or if you're on Twitter, follow and tweet us your news tips at FBC News, or simply hashtag FBC News. That's the news for tonight. Join the team again tomorrow evening. From me, good night.
Isang na morong chumena matagni ko ni rawon ni bibo na matagni ke misa po. Niya na isang bulu bidang na sero ko ni sana na chumena kira na morong chumay. Tuna sile. Isang bula, oyo Mr. Ben. Kela pa. Na magkikira ni bibo mataka mo ni chikira morong buka may na ono kinaliwa. Ena bula FM. Ang pala.